Learn See the Hard Way, exercise 52A, where we start hacking and then using that to improve your server. So the plan is to learn how to improve your server by hacking it, but also I'm gonna cover code review. And we have our code review process where you do a light code review to get notes, and then you go through and do a more formal code review, and then you go through and you do your improvements based on what you've done and how you've changed it. So that's what we're gonna do. The purpose of this is to turn on defensive mode and destroy what you've created. You will be a better programmer if you stop attaching the code to yourself. You are not your code. Your code can totally suck, and you can still be a good person who is not your code. That's very important, and it's something that happens at a certain point if you want to become a professional. My first criticism of this protocol in this project is that the protocol is terrible. I wouldn't actually make this my standard protocol or anything like that. There's way better ways to do the protocol. Protocols in general on the internet should have fixed sized elements or a correctly written parser with a parser generator. So I will show you what I mean by a fixed size element. At the moment, all I do is I just split, if I can find it, I just parse the line by doing this split right here. Well, the problem with that is the elements of that line, or that line itself, can be massive. There's no way for me before reading to tell how big the line is. So another way to do that is to make a protocol, and a simple idea from Dan Bernstein is to do a pre-sized protocol where the beginning I have a number, and that indicates how large the payload is. And then I do a colon just to sort of give myself some checks. And then I have the payload and I have a terminator. This is a simple design, and it's actually used in a lot of protocols that have to be very fast, or a lot of them just use this pre-sizing. So that way you know exactly how much you're reading, but more importantly, so you can kill off bad clients. Because if a client presents to you, hey, I'm going to send you 10 gigabytes, you just kill it. You read that first number that says 10 gigabytes. You go, that's too big. Take off. The other way to do it is with a parser generator, but I won't get into that here because that's actually something that's a fairly complicated topic. But if you end up writing handwritten parsers like we've done in this protocol, you eventually sort of circle around a parsing that is complicated enough it needs a generator. So it's good to just start with a parser generator to begin with. So hacking the protocol. There are things I can do. So fuzzing means using randomness, and that's what we'll do in the next exercise. Is you'll see I'll just write a simple little Python script that will just fuzz some names and see what's going on. So I can come up with names that come out of the dev random device and present that to the server, see if I crash it. Thrashing the size of the strings. So I can just start handing it heinously sized data to see if I can crash it. What happens when I put a null byte character into the data? What happens when I feed it crazy large numbers? So Python can generate really huge numbers that C can't really handle. So what happens to my statistics or anything like that? All right, so the rule that I want you to understand about protocols is if they don't have an exact grammar that's generated with a parser generator, okay? We're not talking, it shouldn't be handwritten, or if they don't have fixed size elements, so they have a specification of exactly how long it is, then they're going to be hacked. Over the history of protocols, even with fixed size elements, you're still probably going to have problems with hacking. You have to really be vigilant and do your code reviews. But if you're going to start writing protocols, you have to focus on making them so that you can exactly know when a client is misbehaving and kill it. Our server sort of does that, and you'll see when we do the demo that helps us out, actually. It saves us. Okay, my disk storage is junk. I used that really dumb, just for fun, the stupid ink cipher. Ink cipher. That is, this whole thing here, you're going to see, I'm just going to tear this apart when I code review it, is stupid. I should have just gone and used something like MD5 or something like that. The sanitizing of locations was a good idea, but the encryption of the name is just stupid. So what I should have done instead is I should have just used plain old MD5. I was just being what I thought would be fancy. I'm going to encrypt the names. No, this is dumb, because what happens is if I use encipher, the size of the string for the names is still the same size. If I use an MD5 hash, they're in a consistent size, so I don't have to worry about where they're stored. Even better, I could have just used a library like SQLite or something like that. Let me pull up SQLite super quick so you can know what I'm talking about. So SQLite is a nice little database interface. And unless I have to store really large amounts of data, there's no point in me, oh, that's the Python interface. I would like the actual SQLite. There we go. There's no point in me storing this stuff to the disk if all I'm doing is just doing data. And then there's all sorts of problems too with what if I later on I need to change the data structure, change its format. Well, using it on the disk, I have to write a program that goes through and changes all those structs. It loads them and stores them. Whereas with the SQL databases, there's really good technology for migrating SQL databases from one form to another. So my disk storage, that's stupid. The way I'm enciphering my names, that's stupid. I just admit to myself those were dumb decisions, and it was mostly done for educational purposes, so I could then tear them apart in this series. All right, so hacking the disk. How would you do that? Well, I can fuzz the file names. I could try filling the disk. Notice there's no limit on how much data this thing will store. In theory, it would be a database server, so people could just connect to it and, it would be running inside a company, so people would connect and just store whatever they want to store. But if I were to put this onto the internet, I would be in a lot of trouble. So, it's good to sort of like look at how these things are getting stored. I could do rampant create delete options. So I could like store, or I can just, rampant create delete. So I can do like create delete. That causes a lot of thrashing. And eventually I might actually fill up some data structure. Maybe the hash map doesn't work right, or maybe I'm using some sort of other data structure. I can do insanely long directories. That would only be in the protocol, the original design without encipher, where I was going to create multiple directories and actually create the URL paths. And then trying to access arbitrary files, we already covered this in our design, so that's good. I already defended against that, so I don't have to worry about that one. So the rule, the disk works, but you need a way to monitor storage or just have tons of it. That's usually people just have tons of it. Watch for arbitrary paths and always sanitize them. Okay, so as we've talked about in the other videos, a good procedure is to do first a first pass code review that is just initial impressions, first thoughts. What do you think of the code? Then, using notes from that, doing a more formal code review, and then finally doing improvements. So that's our 3-step process, okay? Or a plan for improvement. So I'm now going to do a quick first pass code review. Okay, I'm going to say, and then what I'm doing is I'm just going through and saying, not secure. I'm going through and I'm writing bug. I'm just writing bug and what I think. SCR copy, and I'm just doing a quick scan. Bug. This is slow. I'm just making a guess. I'm not saying this is actually valid. Get rid of this encipher function. I've already got a bug there. That's not the, yep. Okay, that whole function probably should just go. Okay, so I'm just going to leave encrypt armor name. Nah, let's just do this. Bug ditch encryption. It was dumb. All right, so I got that. This is all good. That's fine. Handle create. So now I'm going to just jump down since I'm kind of doing the protocol, right? Or the disk storage part of the protocol. So let's do handle store. And go through that, just a light. That seems to be fine. And I'm just kind of going really light, just looking for things that jump out. Like, your common big hits, improperly done, if statements, while loops, things like that. And load, let's look at load real quick. Okay. That's all good. All right. And now let's go through parse command, but for the load things. Store. Okay, here we are. That's good. That's good. Handle store. That's good. This is good. Oh man. Oh wait. Okay, so there's a huge bug from the last video. Handle load. Duh. Incidentally, if you were doing this for someone else, it's good to not be as rude as I am with myself, because a lot of other people are not as professional about their code. So it's good to be professional in your reviews and not write duh. Okay, so I had a bug there. Actually, load never worked right. So this will be interesting to fix that. Scan paths, I think that's, all right, so there we go. So that's the storage part, load and store. So that was the last thing I implemented, and that's what I'm going to do. Now I would go to the test, stat server tests, and let's delete it, have that floating around. Okay. Sanitize armor. Yeah, I want to have a notice. Bug, just get rid of this and use MD5. Okay. What else do we have? Encrypt armor, store load. And that's not a bad, that's all fine. That test is fine. Okay, so that's the first pass code review of that. And that sort of lets me do this, where I can do grep bug on the code. And then, well, all right, hold on. Grep / bug : or just actually bug : because I pick up debug too. And then this tells me all the places that I've sort of said, hey, I have a bug here. There, 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 and there. Those would then be where I would go and focus my code review to cut down on the amount of time. But incidentally, you would start with those functions where I have bug in them and just either make the fix or go through and do the code review. All right. So that's a first pass code review. And you notice I went through and I'm like, you know what, that encipher is stupid. Like I said, there's so many problems with this. Personally, I would just get rid of the whole project and start over. But for the book, it's a good little project, and I'm now just going through it. So that's the end of exercise 52A. Go on to 52B, where I demonstrate some very light hacking, how it might work. Now, in the real world of hacking, it's way more involved and complicated what I have, but I'm going to show you something a little bit, just a little taste of it, and also kind of do a more formal code review of one of these functions.